Hey everyone, I just uploaded a new video, you can go watch that. And right now I'm actually going to finally do something I've been wanting to do for a little while, and that's do a read out loud. Yes, I know I keep on saying I have other books I want to finish reading, but this has nothing to do with my pick out thing. I don't know, I forget what it's called, but basically I made a little idea of where I write down a series of books and I pick one out and I read it. I'm gonna not do that with a read out loud. For my read out loud, I'm actually gonna read to you A Dog's Purpose. So let's get going. And I think this is gonna be a bit of a part-o, so I think this might be part 1. Okay, let's get going. So many people have helped me in so many ways to get me from where I started to where I am today. I hardly know where to begin the task of identifying them all, and where to stop is even more perplexing a choice. So let me state for the record that I know that as both a writer and a person, I am work in progress who thus far is a sum of all I've learned and experienced, and that I owe everything to the people who have taught me, helped me, and support me. I do want to make sure I acknowledge some of the writings I used to my research into how dogs think. Dog Watching by Demson Morris. What the Dogs Have Taught Me by Marilyn Mark. The Hidden Life of Dogs by Elizabeth Marshall Thomas. Search and Rescue Dogs by American Rescue Dog Association. The works of Kessler Millam, James Hewitt, Dr. Marta Becker, and Gina Sadifaria. I don't know. I wouldn't be anything without the support of my family, especially my parents, who have always believed in my writing, despite a couple of decades worth of rejections notice. Okay, I'm not going to read all this. I'm just going to get to the story now. 1. One day it occurred to me that the warm, squeaky, smelly things squirming around next to me were my brothers and sisters. I was very disappointed. Though my vision had resolved itself only to the point where I could distinguish fuzzy forms in the light, I knew that the large and beautiful shape with the long, wonderful tongue was my mother. I had figured out that when the chill air struck my skin, and it meant she had gone somewhere, but when the warmth returned, it would be time to feed. Often finding a place to snuggle meant pushing aside what I now knew was the snout of a sibling seeking to crowd me out of my share, which was really irritating. I couldn't see that my brothers and sister had any purpose whatsoever. When my mother licked my stomach to simulate the flow of fluids from under my tail, I blinked up at her slightly, beseeching her to please get rid of other puppies for me. I wanted her all to myself. Gradually, the other dogs came into focus, and I grudgingly accepted their presence in the nest. My nose soon told me I had one sister and 2 brothers. Sister was only slightly less interested in wrestling with me than my brothers, one of whom I thought of as fast because he somehow always moved more quickly than I could. The other one I mentally called Hungry because he whimpered whenever mother was gone and would suckle her with an odd depression as if it were never enough. Hungry slept more than my siblings and I did, so we often jumped on him and chewed on his face. Our den was scooped out underneath the black roots of a tree, and was cool and dark during the heat of the day. The first time I tottered out into the sunlight, Sister and Fast accomplished me, and naturally Fast shoved his way to the front. Of the 4 of us, only Fast had a splash of white on his face. and as he trotted journeyed forward, this patch of fur flashed in the daylight. I'm special, fast dazzling star-shaped spot seemed to be declaring to the world. The rest of him was a mottled and unremarkably brown and black as I was. Hungry was several shades lighter, and sister shared mother's stubby nose and flat-tended forehead, but we all looked more or less the same despite Fast's prancing. Our tree was perched on a creek bank, and I was delighted when Fast tumbled head over heels down the bank, though sister and I pummeled with no more grace than when we tried to make the same descent. Slippery rocks and a tiny trickle of water over wonderful otters, and we followed the wet trail of the creek into a moist, cool cave, a cavern with metal sides. I knew instantly that this was a good place to hide from danger, but Mother was unimpressed with our find and hauled us unnecessarily back to the den, where it turned out our legs weren't powerful enough to enable us to scale back up the bank. We had learned the lesson that we couldn't return to the nest on our own when we went down the bank, so as soon as Mother left the nest, we did it again. This time Hungry joined us, though. Once he was in the cavern, he sprawled in the cool mud and fell asleep. Exploring seemed like the right thing to do. We needed to find other things to eat. Mother, getting patient with us, was standing up when we weren't even finished feeding, which I could only blame on the other dogs. If Hungry weren't so restless, if Fast wasn't so bossy, if sister didn't wiggle so much, I knew Mother would hold still and allow us to fill our bellies. Couldn't I always coax her to lie down, usually with a sigh, when I reached up for her while she stood above us? Often Mother would spend extra time licking Hungry while I seethed at the ingest. By this time, Fast and sister had both grown larger than I. My body was the same size, but my legs were shorter and stubbier. Hungry was the runt of the litter, of course, but it bothered me that Fast and sister always abandoned me to play with each other, as if Hungry and I belonged together out of some sort of natural order in the pack. Since Fast and sister were more interested in each other than the rest of the family, I pushed them by depriving them of my company, going off by myself deep into the curvlet. I was sniffing at something deliciously dead and wrong one day, when right in front of me was a tiny animal exploded into the air. A frog! Delighted, I leaped forward, attempt to pounce on it with my paws, but the frog jumped again. It was afraid, although all I wanted to do was play and probably wouldn't eat it. Fast and sister, since my incitement, came stumbling into the curve, knocking me over as they skid to a stop in the slimy water. The frog hopped and Fast laughed at it. Using my head as a springboard, I snarled at him, but he ignored me. Sisters and Fast fell all over themselves to get at the frog, who managed to land in a pool of water and look away in silent, rapid strokes. Sister put her muzzle in the pond and snored, sneezing water over Fast and me. Fast climbed on her back, the frog, my frog, forgotten. Sadly, I turned away. It looked as though I lived in a family of dimwits. I was to think of that frog often in the days that followed, usually just as I drifted off to sleep. I found myself wondering how it would have tasted. More and more frequently, Mother would growl softly when we approached, and the day she clicked her teeth together in warning when we came at her in a greeting tumble, despite that my siblings had ruined everything. Then Fast crawled to her, his belly low, and she lowered her snout to him. He licked her mouth, and she rewarded him by a grain of food, and we rushed forward to share. Fast pushed us away, but we knew the trick now, and when I sniffed and licked my mother's jaws, she gave me a meal. At this point, we had all become thoroughly familiar with the creek bed and had tracked up and down until the whole area was filled with odors. Vass and I spent most of our time decided to the serious business of play, and I was beginning to understand how important it was to him for the game to wind up with me on my back, his mouth chewing my face and throat. Sister never challenged him, but I still wasn't sure I liked what everyone seemed to assume was the natural order of our pack. Hungry, of course, didn't care about his status, so when I was frustrated, I bit his ears. One afternoon, I was drowsily watching Sister and Vass ink on a scrap of cloth they found when my ears perked up, and enamel of some kind was coming, something large and loud. I scrambled to my feet, but before I could race down the creek bed to investigate the noise, Mother was there, her body rigid with warning. I saw with surprise that she had Hungry in her teeth, killing him in a fashion that we left behind weeks ago. She led us into the dark culvert and crouched down, her ears flat against her head. The message was clear, and we heeded, shrieking back from the tunnel opening in silence. When the thing came into view, striding along the creek bed, I felt Mother's fear ripple across her back. It was big. It stood on two legs, and an acrid smoke wafted from its mouth as if shambling toward us. I stared intently, absolutely fascinated. For reasons I couldn't fathom, I was drawn to this creature, compelled, and I even tested, prepared to bound out to greet it. One look from my mother, though, and I decided against it. This was something to be feared, to be avoided at all costs. It was, of course, a man, the first one I'd ever seen. The man never glared in our direction. He scaled the bank and disappeared from view, and after a few moments Mother slid out into the sunlight and raised her head to see if the danger had passed. She relaxed then and came back inside, giving each of us a reassuring kiss. I ran out to see for myself and found myself disheartened when all that remained of the man's presence was a lingering scent of smoke in the air. Over and over again the next few weeks, Mother reinforced the message we learned in the convent. Avoid men at all costs. Fear them. The next time Mother went to hunt, we were allowed to go with her. Once we were away from the security of the den, her behavior became timid and skittish, and we all immediately imitated her actions. We steered clear of open spaces, sneaking among next to the bushes. If we saw a person, Mother would freeze, her shoulders tense, ready to run. At these times, vast patch of white fur seemed as obstinate as a bark, but no one ever noticed us. Mother showed us how to tear into the flaming bags behind houses, quickly scattering indelible papers and revealing chunks of meat, cuts of bread, and bits of cheese which we chewed to the best of our ability. The taste was exotic and the smells were wonderful, but Mother's anxiety affected all of us, and we ate quickly, savoring nothing. Almost immediately Hungry brought up his meal, which I thought was pretty funny, until I, too, felt my insides grip into a powerful spasm. I always been aware of other dogs, though I never personally met any except those in my own family. Sometimes when we were out hunting, they barked at us from behind fences, most likely jealous that we were trotted around free while they were imprisoned. Mother, of course, never let us approach any of the strangers, while Vass usually bristled a little, somehow insulted that anyone would dare call out to us while he lifted his legs on their trees. Occasionally I even saw a dog in a car. The first time this happened, I stared in wonderment at his head hanging out the window, tongue lolling out. He barked joyously when he spotted me, but I was too astounded to do anything but lift my nose and sniff in disbelief. Collars and trots were something else, Mother admitted, though I didn't see how they could be dangerous if there were something with sometimes dogs inside them. A large, loud truck came round frequently and took away all the bags of food people left out for us, and then meals would be scarce for a day or two. I didn't like the truck, nor the greedy man who hopped off to scoop up all the food for themselves, despite the fact that their truck smelled glorious.